A lot of narratives, a lot of big fights to be able to push on forward, especially after coming off UFC 322, to be able to move on forward with the welterweight division, to be able to see who is going to be the clear number one contender in that welterweight division, and also the true number one contender in the lightweight division for Ilia, to be able to mention who is going to be that next matchup for him in this main event. And really starting off this card, looking at it on paper, it was actually a pretty decent card, but the way that it fell out, I mean, Jesus Christ, finish after finish. We're going to get into it. This is the recap. This is the reaction of USC, Qatar, to be able to get into it. To start off this card, we had Mariq Budgelo versus Denzel Freeman. I went with Budgelo on this one with his grappling background. I thought he was going to be able to take things to the ground. But this one was pretty much just a heavyweight fight that was a technical sparring matchup, right? Nothing much really happened. It was low kick after 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 low kick. That is essentially what just happened in that entirety of the fight. Maybe in the third round was a little bit more spicy. Denzel Freeman started to be able to let his hands go a little bit more. Jabs were flying. It was really getting insane in there. Takedowns were, shot every now and then. But for the majority of the time, Denzel Freeman beat Mariq pretty much on landing more low kicks than him. And that was it. Moving up the card, we got Narulo Alayev versus Shamrock. I went with Shamrock, so I'm starting off already 0-2 on this card. Very great. Very great on me. Narulo he has some UFC experience as a young guy. Obviously trains in that type of area. I don't know if he trains with Team Khabib or not, but obviously he looks like he does. He looks like he's one of their cousins, if we're being quite honest. And really thinking that, and Shamrock having a whole bunch of BJJ submissions and having that expertise with it being on the ground, he showed off some good takedown defense on this one. Didn't get taken down to the ground. Didn't get dominated like you would expect he would, especially against a guy like Aliev. Really, he got beat up on the feet. Narulo was actually pretty good. Very technical. Very good work by him throughout the entirety of the rounds. Was really pushing back Shamrock, really being more of the aggressor, more of the bully in this matchup, and landing more of the cleaner, effective shots. Shamrock had his moments here and there, but for the majority of the part, Narulo was having his time. And moving up the card, we got Ismail Nurdavayev versus Ryan Loder, and this was over before it even started. Nardayev and really putting me in an 0-3 hole with my predictions of what I believe was going to go down on this card. I mean, absolutely rifled shot Ryan Loder right in the face. I mean, put him out cold. I mean, beautiful knockout. Right on the chin. I believe it was a well-timed right hand right on the button of Ryan Loder that sent him to night-night. And moving up the card, we got Alexandre Tuporia versus Beksak Almakan. And man, am I right. Man, am I right. There was a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, but there was a lot of people that were putting money on Beksak as the underdog. It was a very close fight. I thought it was going to be a very close fight in my honest opinion, but I did go with Alexander Tuporia to be able to come on top on this one against Beksak, and he did. He did. The first one was very close, very competitive. You could be able to give it to Beksak if you want to be able to give him a round. That first round was definitely probably his. Having Alexandre kind of going back forward, stumbling a little bit back, landing some good low kicks, being a bit quicker in terms of his hands, and giving Alexandre some issues on the feet a little bit, actually outpointing him and outstriking him with a few times. But once the second and third round came around, Alexandre was just on his brother's John and really just doing what his brother does well, and that's using that boxing effectively, moving on forward, cutting off the ring. That jab was money all night for Alexandre, and he could have missed a target with that one. But he's still a little, I'm not going to say he's a little bit green. He's not green, but he definitely needs more experience. There was times that he would overshoot with his right hand way too many times. Would leave him over swinging and leave him off balance. There was times that, especially in that third round, where the right hand did start to land, and it looked like he damn near was about to get a finish against Beksak in that third round. But then Alexandre, even though that is something that he can be able to fall back on, he falls back on a lot with his grappling. He shoots for a lot more takedowns than Ilia. He looks for more time to be able to get takedowns than Ilia. He did get a few takedowns, but didn't really do much with it because Beksak, obviously being from that area as well, has really good takedown defense. As soon as he gets down to the ground, he gets taken down, he's right back up to his feet. So Alexandre, there's a few times, that he just needs to, I feel like he needs to be able to get more experience under his wings. His boxing is good. It looks similarly like to his brother. He doesn't have that KO power similar like to his brother where it just simply puts your lights out. But he has really good power, and the power advantage was definitely in his way against Beksak. And with looking at and looking how his jab just continuously was just landing over and over again, he had Beksak's face just marked up all over the place, especially after that first round. So I feel like with Alexandre, he needs to be able to put more into his combinations a little bit more. Stop relying so heavily on just loading up on that right hand shot. Work more into the combinations. I'm not going to say shoot less takedowns, but be more timely with your takedowns. There were some good time takedowns that he did have to be able to get on Beksak and really bring him down and have some control and just really look to be able to win out rounds in those type of situations with getting those takedowns and using the wrestling and grappling and also having that effectiveness to know that you can be able to shoot takedowns and actually get people down onto the ground. But as well, there's another thing as well that Beksak that was using earlier in the fight that wasn't really, he didn't go back to, and that was the low kicks. I feel like those low kicks were money. If Beksak was really trying to be able to take initiative to that and really start to be able to not shoot, but throw more of those low kicks. And also as well with Alexandre needs to be able to mix up his striking ability a little bit more. Just being so boxing heavy with your hands and relying on that is, it's good and it's effective and it is his style and his base, but at least his brother Ilia, who doesn't throw a lot of kicks himself as well, he throws low kicks. He throws a lot of low kicks and they're very effective. And I think that Alexander should be able to incorporate that more into his game. This is a very good win for him because Beksak did give a lot of problems to Umar Nurmagomedov when Umar was on his way up and towards the rankings. And Alexander now has this name on his resume that he can be able to bolster up to. And hopefully with that and also more experience and more IQ that he can be able to build up with, he can be able to get into a better matchup. And now moving up the card, and we got Abdul Rahman Yakhyayev making his UFC debut against Rafael Cerqueda and absolutely blitzkrieging him in about like 30 seconds. I mean, gets into his face, lands a nasty combination. I think he lands like a left hook that kind of stumbles Cerqueda, then throws a head kick that I thought when he threw the head kick that Cerqueda was knocked out and the fight was over, and that was pretty much it. But I guess the referee didn't want to be able to step into it for after that one, and then Rahman then decided to be able to cinch in an RNC choke that finished the fight off and got a nice victory in his UFC debut against Rafael Cerqueda, who is known for, getting out of there early on a lot of fights, even though he went to 3 rounds last time out against Julius Walker. But a nice debut for Yakhyayev. And moving up to the card, which I believe was the best fight on this card in my opinion, that being Alex Perez versus Alsu Amabayev. I mean, this was back and forth, nail-biting, very close until the very end. First round, Alex Perez was doing really well with his low kicks, really having Asu with a lot of issues with his movement and staying right in front of him. And Alex Perez was very aggressive on the forefront, moving on forward, having Asu moving a lot more backwards. I believe Asu did land a takedown in that first round, but didn't really do much, had a little bit of control in that, and he was doing pretty decent with his strikings, but I do think that Alex Perez was outworking him and was landing the better shots, even though Alex Perez with the shots were a lot more wild. Then you go into the second round, and Asu is starting to be able to get more of his timing down packed. He lands a nice he's landing nice uppercuts. He's starting to be able to time Alex Perez a little bit better. I'm over here trying to be, thinking about this fight and thinking about the process about it. But Alex Perez is really just, he's still being wild with the shots, but then he's ducking his head under and he's getting these uppercuts landing on him now. The right hand is starting to land for Asu as well, and now he's backing up Alex Perez, and Perez is kind of worried about, well, damn, I was having a pretty good start in that first minute of that second round, and I'm moving on forward. I'm being very aggressive. I'm still landing my low kicks, and I'm throwing a lot of shots, and I'm having Asu backed up, but now Asu is starting to be able to come back forth and really do a lot better work. And then in the middle of that second round, Asu lands a spinning back kick right on the liver, and you could just tell just from the jump as soon as it landed, it really, really hurt, and an effective Alex Perez in a bad way, but smart vet IQ experience from Alex Perez, gets the takedown, has the control. In that first round, I did think that he had a takedown as well himself, but was looking more for damage and elbows and trying to be able to, get Asu cut or hurt up in there and finish him on the ground potentially. But in this second one, as soon as he got that takedown after getting spinning back kicked right to the liver, he just looked for control and time to be able to get it over with. And then moving on to that third round, Asu is starting to be able to get his timing, his distance. He's having more confidence now. He may be down on on the cards, if we're being quite honest, but he's doing really good and having good effectiveness against Alex Perez. Perez is still landing his low kicks. They're exchanging pretty well. And then Alsu Amabayev lands this, either it landed just barely and it grazed him, or it just went through the guard of Alex Perez. But I did think that it went over Alex Perez guard. A spinning wheel kick right to the temple, to the head of Alex Perez, stumbles him a little bit. And while it stumbles him, Alsu jumps on him and throws a nice combination. Is really trying to be able to get him out of there. And then while Alex Perez shoots for a double leg takedown, Alsu just jumps right on the neck with a nasty standing guillotine and gets the third round finish over Alex Perez in a great back and forth action matchup where Perez was coming off a long layoff. He's really trying to be able to come and impress and keep that ranking, or even jump up into the rankings against a young guy like Alsu Amabayev. But Amabayev now, after his loss against Manel Cap, getting a win over Jose Ochoa, who's a really good prospect in that flyweight division, and now an older vet that was up on him into the rankings like Alex Perez. Amabayev, man, he's right back into the thick of things and in the flyweight division. And now moving up the card, and we got a slog of a matchup. The worst fight on this card, bar none. Nicholas Dalby versus Saigid Isagamayev. All right, he trains and he works with Team Khabib and Islam Makhachev. He's been out for about 3 years. He's been in one championship, and he runs with those boys. Nicholas Dalby's coming off that highlight KO loss against Randy Brown. Was a huge, huge underdog on this one. I think he was like plus 270 or something like that. And I went with Nicholas Dalby on this one. I did go with Nicholas Dalby on this one, and he pulled it out. He pulled it out. There might be a few people calling robbery, but I think that this decision was definitely the clear and rightful decision to be able to get done. Nicholas Dalby for sure won this one, smudging it in the first round, having that control, not really doing much, but just doing enough to be able to, I guess, there wasn't a lot of damage, especially in that first and second round. But in the first round, Nicholas Dalby was smudging his way and won that round. Second round, Saigid started to be able to get takedowns and smudged his way as well. Nobody really threw much, if at all, for being quite honest. But Saigid got the takedowns, he got the back. And there was times that Dalby had reversal on some positions, and he got on top, but he didn't really do much in terms of ground and pound, even though it was a little bit more than what Saigid did. And in the third round, Saigid started to fade a lot, and you got Nicholas Dalby just being in his face, landing his jab, landing knees up the middle to the body, just doing more work, being more active, landing more shots, and really just dogging it out, just wanting to be able to get the win more than what Saigid did. Saigid tried his best as well, but he just gassed out. And I mean, having a 3-year layoff into MMA and then jumping in now, even though you're working with probably one of the best teams in MMA as of right now, it's not going to get the job done. And I wouldn't say they got fraud checked, but I definitely did call this one the way that I actually went down. So 100%, huge pat on the back for myself with Nicholas Dalby as a huge underdog on this card to get the win. And now moving up the card, and we got an impressive comeback performance by a highly touted prospect, that being Luke Riley over Bogdan Grad. In that first round, Bogdan Grad was doing Bogdan Grad things, spinning, being aggressive, being in the face of Luke Riley, having Luke Riley looking a little bit flustered. And as soon as things were getting a little bit too close and worse for wear for Luke Riley, Bogdan Grad gets a takedown, has the control, really just did whatever he wanted to do on the ground, landed some good ground and pound, was fishing for submissions every now and then, just making things look really, really uncomfortable for Luke Riley in there, if we're being quite honest. So Luke Riley was definitely down in that first round and was not looking good. It was looking like he was on his way to be getting fraud checked by Bogdan Grad. But in the second round, off having a tough first round, being down already on the card on that one, for sure, bar none, no question about it. Luke Riley, man. Luke Riley, especially with his hair, even though he's not blonde, the way that it flops and it goes around looking like a young Patty Pillman in there, obviously with better stand-up, skills and ability. They're getting to an exchanges, and while both of these are hooking, these guys are hooking. If you don't hook with a hooker, right? If you're boxing and you like the boxing and you like the MMA, you don't hook with a hooker, brother. You don't hook with hookers. You don't do that. You don't do that. And Luke Riley catches Bogdan Grad badly on the chin, drops him, hurts him, lands some nasty ground and pound, and gets a nice comeback victory in that second round by KO, extending, I don't know if he's on a KO streak, but having another KO on his resume, and now in his UFC debut, 100%. A great, great debutant type of performance from Luke Riley. I'm looking forward for more from him in the future. Then moving up the card, we got Kyoja Horiguchi versus Tagir Ulanbekov. And I was very wrong on this one. Very wrong on this one. Why I was kind of on a streak of being right, I was wrong on this one. I went with Ulanbekov. I thought Ulanbekov was going to use his physicality, his reach, his physical abilities to be able to get a victory over Horiguchi, who was making his return to the UFC. But boy, was I wrong. Horiguchi looked beautiful. He looked beautiful in there tonight. I mean, that was a fantastic return debut. Well, not a debut, but a return for Horiguchi in the octagon. I mean, with the striking, he just started breaking Ulanbekov, especially in that second round. I mean, it was close in that first one. It was going kind of tit for tat, and Horiguchi's trying to be able to, get his distance right, get his bearings right, get his timing correctly. Ulanbekov was doing some pretty decent things with some of the takedowns, and they're going kind of back and forth. But in that second round, with things being on the feet, Horiguchi landing those nasty low kicks, just chewing up the legs of Ulanbekov, having the striking, landing his jab, landing that overhand right over the top against Ulanbekov, consistently just wobbling and hurting Ulanbekov all over the octagon. And Ulanbekov not really having any type of success with the takedowns, and now Horiguchi's having success with the grappling and the takedowns. And you go into that third round where it just looked like Ulanbekov was just getting dominated on, especially after coming off that second round. Horiguchi, just this combination, I think he landed it maybe 2 or 3, maybe even 4 times, where he's throwing this right hand, or he's feinting like he's throwing this right hand to go into the high kick, and it hit Ulanbekov like, again, 2 or 3 times, maybe even 4. And I don't know how he didn't go down. I don't know how he didn't just flatten out to the ground after that. But Jesus, the chin and the might and the determination for Ulanbekov, you got to give him credit for that. But because he was getting butchered up in that one. And while he was getting dominated, knees up the middle, the low kicks, and then now the high kicks and the right hands are consistently just landing over and over against Ulanbekov, gets taken down to the ground and gets choked out. That's another loss for Team Islam on this one, unfortunately for them. But Kyoji Horiguchi, man, if Pantoja is to be able to retain his belt against Joshua Van, I think that is the best matchup in the flyweight division. And he just came back. I mean, maybe Manel Kape, but even Manel Kape already fought Pantoja. I don't believe Horiguchi has fought Pantoja before. These guys are teammates. They trained at ATT. So, I mean, it's a great matchup. I think it is a great matchup. Just off this first base performance that we already had so far, I think the matchup, maybe you get Horiguchi in there one more time after you have Pantoja go against Van, unless Pantoja absolutely just runs through Van in like the first or second round on the ground. I think you put in Horiguchi in there. Horiguchi, I mean, has the name, wants the championship belt. Everybody else in flyweight is kind of like, they're either very young or they already fought Pantoja already. I wouldn't be mad at giving him the title shot. Now moving up the card, and we got an absolute a great knockout on 2-day notice. Waldo Cortez Acosta comes in for Sergey Spivak against Shamil Gaziev. I went with Spivak. And if I thought Spivak was going to win, I definitely thought Cortez Acosta was going to win. And this one was just quick in the first round, in like the first 2 minutes, or maybe even less than that, maybe a minute, 30 seconds. Gaziev just runs him forward. He's trying to believe that he's going to be the next heavyweight champion in there because he has a 2-day notice. Waldo Cortez Acosta, who in a full training camp would have probably got him out of there a lot quicker than what he did. But on the back foot, Cortez Acosta, in a crazy exchange with him and Gaziev, lands a right hand that stumbles and has Gaziev damn near out of there, and then lands another perfectly timed right hand on the button against Gaziev that has Shamil the Blob Gaziev blobbing all over the canvas and knocked out unconscious. And now moving up the card, and we got 170-pound mythical fighter Mike Tech Odobai making an absolute statement in his welterweight debut division fight against Jack Hermanson, who was also making his debut in the welterweight division, coming down from 185. And Jack Hermanson looked huge. He looked huge compared to Odobai, who was coming up from 155. Hermanson was looking like he was on his way potentially to get a decision victory over this one against Odobai. He was landing his jab over and over. The front kick was landing good. The low kick was landing nice until Odobai started to get his bearings with him, started to get his timing. He landed a nice right hand down the middle. He started to land a few uppercuts. Hermanson is still just moving on back, until finally a right hand on the side of the temple just flatlines Hermanson. I mean, badly. I mean, he looked like how he looked against Gregory Rodriguez when he hit him on the chin, but this time he got hit on the temple, and this time it was Odobai. Oldby coming up from 155 now at 170, not a big, huge RoboCop like Gregory Rodriguez. Unfortunately for Hermanson, he's like 37 now. His chin is probably done. He already moved down a weight division. I don't know what you want to be able to do for him even more in the future. But Oldby getting a highlight reel KO, man. I mean, that was nice. That was really nice. That was really nice to be able to see from Oldby. And moving up the card now, and we got, speaking of highlight reel KOs, this is 3 back to back to back. I mean, there was a whole bunch of finishes in sequence. Volkan Ozdemir versus Alonzo Menifield. I mean, Menifield was just on the back foot from the jump. He looked very timid. He looked very scared. He didn't want to get in any exchanges. And Volkan Ozdemir was on timing. He was ready to get Alonzo Menifield out of there a-saparoni. And he did. Nasty combination that hurt Alonzo Menifield. There was a knee up the middle into a left hook, and he still was standing on his feet. And then Ozdemir is just still throwing shots. And then finally, I think it was a left hook that finally just flattened Alonzo Menifield out of there, out cold. And Volkan Ozdemir still stays as a mainstay, and Alonzo Menifield still probably is later down there in the rankings, probably giving a lot of problems to a lot of unranked light heavyweights in that division still. But yeah, Volkan Ozdemir stays probably where he's at as of right now, or maybe goes up a little bit more. I mean, it was a great performance and a great KO from him. And now moving on to the co-main event, and we got Ian Machado, the Cuck Garry, gets the job done on who we forget the name is. It was a nice scrap. The finish streak obviously was over and done, but it was a nice decision scrap. Ian Garry, Bilal Muhammad, it was nice. It was good. Ian Garry definitely won, for sure, 30-27. Second round was the closest one, but for sure in the first and third round was definitely Ian Garry's. I definitely leaned more towards the second round, it being to Ian Garry as well. I just think that he outstruck him. He just outdid him. He did more than him. And that's pretty much just what it came down to. The jab, the low kick, that stomp, that oblique kick right to the front of Bilal was money all night. Ian Garry had great takedown defense as well. It didn't go to the ground at all. So since Bilal couldn't be able to get any type of takedowns, he couldn't be able to change the dimensions of the fight against Ian Garry. So it just stayed pretty much on the feet, and that's just Ian Garry's game. He's going to be able to do what he needs to be able to do. He's elusive. He just gets out of the way of shots. He rolls with shots as well. Bilal was doing good work with the jab. He didn't really throw a lot of kicks, and when he did throw kicks, they looked very flimsy, and they didn't land whatsoever. But the right hand was working as well for Bilal. He landed some good right hands, but again, a few other right hands that he was throwing just really with all his power and might to be able to get Ian Garry's pea head out of there. He couldn't be able to land it, or he did land it, or Ian Garry rolled with it. But throughout the entirety of the fight, that's just what the story was. Ian Garry just outdid Bilal Muhammad. There was a moment that I damn near thought that Bilal was going to get knocked out, where there was a sequence where there was a right hand that landed by Ian Garry into later like a spinning back fist to a front kick right on the chin that had Bilal like stumbling a little bit, but he then like recovered really well like 2 seconds later. So yeah, Ian Garry gets the job done. He did it. He did what he needed to be able to do. He did what he needed to do. He did what he needed to do. He got the job done. More than likely, he's probably going to be the number one contender against Islam Makhachev. If anybody deserves that shot out of everybody in this welterweight division, it is him. Having the names that he has on his resume, like Prates, who is blossoming into a superstar, looking like the welterweight Alex Pereira out there as of right now, just flatlining everybody else out cold. Ian Garry got the job done by decision on him, and he survived Carlos Prates. So, Ian Garry, I mean, he's calling for it. He wants it. I think it's a great matchup, and especially with somebody in his prime, I think it's a really good matchup. And moving now to the main event, we got Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker, and this was just a blowout. The money line had it as, like, from what I remember last before the fight finished, was like minus 800 for Arman. I went with Arman by submission, and he got the job done by submission. He's been working a lot with the grappling and the submission game, and he's really just fortifying every other level of his game as well, and it showed. It showed in this matchup. Dan Hooker looked like he didn't have a prayer's chance in this one, if we're being quite honest. Arman Tsarukyan just, even on the feet, that's what I thought was really impressive. With his kicks, his hands, he looked very quick. He looked elusive. There was uppercuts, there was right hands, there was jabs. I mean, Arman with his boxing looked improved. He looked like he was actually working on his game instead of being the absolute D-bag that he is. You know, having the times where he's pulling out like day before against Islam, headbutting Dan Hooker right before the fight. There's moments that people are looking at Arman and like, dude, what you're doing as of right now, if you weren't the number one contender, you're probably getting yourself cut. But Arman, man, he's just that good. He's improving. He's looking better. And now with him dominating Dan Hooker and not really getting any type of damage against Dan Hooker in this matchup, I mean, book him. Book him now. Book him in January. Have him versus Ilia Topuria. The first, you can't even say it's not a pay-per-view anymore, but the first numbered event now on Paramount Plus. Start off with a bang. You do Ilia versus Arman. Arman has been waiting for a shot. He hasn't been in there for about a year and a half since against Oliveira. He was supposed to get that matchup against Islam early in the year in January. Didn't happen, unfortunately, but it is what it is. What else is there to be able to say? Arman looks leveled up with his striking. Now with the grappling and him getting the takedowns and making Dan Hooker look in there very helpless. I mean, there's not much to be able to talk about this fight. He dominated it, whether it be on the feet or whether it be on the ground. And him getting that submission in that second round is no surprise to me. Other people were probably thinking that it was probably going to go to a decision or just maybe ground and pound, but I knew. I mean, if you pay attention, you pay attention. So Arman getting the submission over Dan Hooker, absolutely 100%. There's nothing else to be able to get done in the lightweight division, in my opinion. Arman is the number one true contender. He took no damage. Book him, Ilia. We're in the middle of November. Do it like, I don't know when they're going to do this numbered card. They're probably going to do it maybe mid to late January. Do it then. You got 2 months. You got 2 months time. Him, Ilia, book it. Get it done. Because this fight needs to happen because this is the only fight to be made right now in the lightweight division. And for Dan Hooker, unfortunate. Unfortunate. He was getting busted up. He got kneed to the face a few times where it looked pretty bad for him. He looked like he got wobbled by a few times by the Arman on the feet as well. I mean, I guess you can rebook him versus Gaethje. I mean, it's a fun fight. I mean, I would want to watch it. Both of these guys are absolute warriors and they're savages on the feet. But if you go against a higher ranked contender that has that grappling advantage and is like an Arman, like an Islam, like an Ilia, like a Charles Oliveira, or maybe even like a Max Holloway, even though I think that would be a great matchup because it would be on the feet and it would be very competitive between each other. I just want to see him go against strikers. So yeah, like this video if you obviously like this video. Comment your opinions of what you thought about this card. This card was an absolute banger. I mean, finish after finish after finish. And subscribe. Subscribe. If you're an MMA fan, you love this content, you need this content, I'm here. I'm always here. And thank you guys again for watching again. And peace.